Shaw always knew that she would be a full-time musician. That was her goal. But you know the proverb that says, may I change the gender? In her heart, a woman plans her course, but the Lord determines her steps. We're going to see that truth fleshed out in Jennifer's journey.
I have my undergraduate degree in piano performance, and then I went on to the Manhattan School of Music for Opera, and I did that and graduated with honors and got to do all kinds of fun shows in New York, and have probably, I think I've done 40 or 50 theater productions now. And it was just interesting. I had everything mapped out. And you know, a lot of people meet the Lord because they've had troubles or trials, and I really feel like I met the Lord because I was getting everything I wanted, and it wasn't fulfilling me the way I thought it would. And I see the light piercing through my dark, seeking out shadows, healing me.
I came back home to Columbus, Ohio to take a church job that I thought was also going to be classical, and to teach voice at Cedarville University. And when I took my church job, they told me right after I had signed the paper and my ink was still wet on the page, they told me that, by the way, they wanted me to transition the music program to contemporary and I was going to have to start a band. And I just laughed and I said, by the way, I'm an opera singer. Wouldn't have a clue how to start a band, and they just said, well, why don't you pray about it and see what the Lord tells you, because we think you're gonna start a band. And I went home and prayed about it, and I thought that it was the craziest thing I'd ever heard of, but felt that the Lord was telling me to go with it, so I did. Well, we felt like we were living a pretty perfect life with my husband and my two beautiful girls, and we wanted to have another baby, and we lost that baby, and that was a very difficult circumstance because I nearly died, and we had to deal with the fallout of that. And right after that, my father was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, which is a fatal illness without treatment or cure. And as we were going through his illness with him, and he was ill just a little under 3 years, toward the end of that time, he was really suffering. It's a terrible illness, and that whole summer as he was suffering before he died, my son was experiencing some really frightening and difficult symptoms that we didn't understand. He was not quite 2, and he wouldn't let anybody touch him. He wouldn't make eye contact with anyone. He would get a drop of water on his pants and scream like it was burning him, and we just didn't understand what was happening with him, and it felt like we were losing Dad and my son at the same time. That was just the darkest time in my life, and we really had to cling to God's promises. He says that He will not leave us or forsake us. He says He will use all things to good. And in Isaiah 61, verse 3, He has a beautiful promise where He says that He will crown us with beauty for ashes. And I really just was struck by that phrase, and I started to pray that the Lord would show me His beauty in my situation. And He showed it to us in just amazing ways, the way that my father dealt with his illness and with dying. He led so many people to the Lord. The way it changed our family and our faith, the way it changed my faith forever. The Lord was so faithful to us in that time, and that has changed my faith and how I depend on Him forever. And then in a miraculous way, the way He healed my son. My son was diagnosed that fall just after my father's passing with sensory integration dysfunction, which is a disorder, a neurological disorder where their brains cannot process sensory input correctly. So he really thought water was burning him. He really thought breezes were painful to him. Food hurt in his mouth. And as he had therapy, he went from a child who couldn't speak or smile to a kid who is in every respect perfectly fine and never stops smiling. He's just the light of my life. And so I see in such an amazing way the way the Lord uses hard things for good. that the Lord has given us so many different ways to minister. I am the worship pastor at my church. I've been there. This is my 10th year, and I love it there. Just love being able to lead people into the presence of the Lord and point them to Him as we worship. So I do a lot of guest worship leading as well. And also one of my passions is speaking and women's ministry. So I do a lot of retreats and women's events where I come in and share my heart and some of my music and minister in that way. I feel very called to women's ministries because my heart is in seeing people grow deeper in their relationship with the Lord, and I really have had so many opportunities in women's ministries to really share my heart, how the Lord has changed me as a wife, as a mother. Some of the experiences that we've had, especially with my experience nearly dying and my dad dying, and some of the things that have happened to us have really, for me, sparked an intense desire to not waste time. I feel really called to get out there and tell people about the Lord and call them to a deeper relationship. I feel that the ministry He's given me is to call people to a deeper relationship with Christ, to be on fire for the Lord, to go out and change the world for Him. Because everywhere I go, I'm so struck by the potential we have as the body of Christ if we were to really be on fire for God, how we could change the world.